Hey there. We are at AWS Reinforce, AWS's first security-focused conference, all about security, a topic that's traditionally been fear-inducing, but hopefully we're going to shed more light on it today. My name is Nikki, and this is Momina and Kunal, and today we're going to talk about IoT security. But before we do, Momina, please tell us what you do here at AWS.
Sure. So my current role is all about communicating the security capabilities of our IoT services and our more traditional cloud compliance services. What we do is we take questions that customers come across all the time, answer them in a way that makes sense for them, that clicks with them, and can really help them leverage all of our service offerings.
So let's back up a second. I think you had a question like,
yeah, I do.
Wait
so
a minute.
Before we get into IoT security, just for all our viewers who are unfamiliar with IoT, can we just get a little bit about like what is IoT in general and the pace it's been growing at?
Absolutely. So IoT, to clarify, means Internet of Things. Very often, Internet of Things are everything from appliances in our homes now to devices that we use, our Fitbits that track all of our steps throughout the day. And the purpose of having IoT security is because anything that is not securely constructed or solution architected now has the ability of bad actors or someone who you may not want to have access to your everyday data have the ability to access that data.
Got it. And I think one of the things mentioned in the keynote earlier today is, I believe that it's increasing at 150x, the IoT devices. Are those just the devices in general that are increasing at that pace? Or?
It's true. I mean, I think there's more devices in the world than there are people by tenfold.
That's crazy.
There's billions of devices.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. And there's so many use cases for all of them. If you can think of one, I'm sure an IoT device for that exists.
Got it. So which makes security even more important, right? I don't want people knowing what's happening on my watch or anything else. So it's definitely
Absolutely.
a paramount.
It's everything from your Fitbit and your watch to large-scale construction projects or managing devices across offices and different office buildings or even driverless cars. There's a number of use cases for it, and security has to be at the forefront of everything from very small devices to very large-scale operations.
So you work with a lot of IoT security customers, so you've probably seen more than a handful of IoT solutions. What are some of the biggest challenges our customers face when it comes to securing their IoT solutions and devices?
I think, without naming anyone specifically, we adore all of our customers and they're all doing a bang-up job at security. I think a lot of times customers are apprehensive about how to truly deal with IoT security based on the kind of requirements they are already held to. A lot of regulated customers or customers in more traditional industries like healthcare, financial services, don't necessarily have a full foundational grasp on what IoT security requires, or how it may be different for more traditional. Exactly, for more traditional cybersecurity. So I think that's a challenge, and that's where people like me come in, and we provide education on how that gap can be closed.
So what are some things that customers do that you've seen that can be improved upon?
Really thinking about security at every stage of the build system. So you want to think about security when you're onboarding your devices. You want to think about security when you're building in permissions and access groups for your devices. You want to think about security when you're actually functioning on different cloud services, even ones that aren't actively connected to the cloud, like Greengrass. You want to think about security when your devices are up and running. What do you do if you find an anomaly from how the rules have already been put into place? So there's a number of things, and it all goes down to making sure the ecosystem and the overall security posture is sound from end to end.
Do you generally see gaps in where they can improve in their security plan of like, oh, you remembered XYZ, but you forgot this whole piece?
Honestly, I think it's because sometimes customers are wary that it's more complicated than it may be. And the goal is really to use all of the services that customers know and love and trust already. It's a combination of using things like identity and access management or using CloudTrail and CloudWatch in order to really build a cohesive and comprehensive security plan for themselves. And those are areas where we're happy to help, to support, and help customers come up with a more comprehensive ecosystem. But I think it's the combination of all sorts of security and compliance services, not one standalone piece that's going to solve everyone's problems.
Right. What have you seen that customers do really well?
Customers are very communicative about what works and what doesn't.
Okay.
And oftentimes I hear that Device Defender is a really, really good win for customers because it helps them not only to put into place what exactly it is that's working for them, security and rules-wise, but it also lets them know in case there's an anomaly, they can add in rules that detect something going awry, and then that rule can go ahead and remediate that as well. So service offerings like that really let customers take actionable steps.
So what is Device Defender for those that are not familiar?
So IoT Device Defender is a service that helps customers build rules, audit their IoT environments, remediate any sort of anomalies they find, and continuously run checks and build more data on the security posture of their IoT devices.
So it's handling security at the device layer.
Exactly.
Got it.
I have a question.
Sure.
So what are some lessons that you've seen our customers learn with security in general? And
Maybe some hard lessons or a specific story without naming names.
Without naming names.
Yeah. Honestly, it just comes down to making sure that all of the pieces that you're working with in your security layer are working in conjunction. Oftentimes I've seen customers not quite 100% sure on who has access to what, and because we work on such a customer-obsessed scale, sometimes large enterprise customers within themselves have access that span many levels and organizations, and that's not something that we're able to manage on their behalf. We want them to be able to have full control over their environments, and just making sure that you understand the services you're working with and have full range of control over that access is probably key. That's not something that I can remediate for anyone because I want them to be able to take charge of their environment. But I always encourage customers to ask for help if they're unsure or if the scalability is kind of running rampant on their end.
Is there like a specific example of a customer without naming of like something that happened where they learned a hard lesson?
Sure. So this is not IoT specific, but it's something that I've learned in the role that I'm in now, and that is we often have customers who are healthcare customers and they need to enter into a contract with us, and some of them may have specific terms but also want to use the self-service console using Artifact, and so there's sometimes tends to be a miscommunication between different departments entering into contracts at different times. Well, we have a self-service portal that makes it easy for them to do things at their own pace and on their terms. We also want to make sure that they are a one-stop shop and have just one contract in place to kind of help them mitigate any sort of unpleasantries that may come about. And that's also more of an educational piece because we tend to provide so much information and so many resources that it can kind of overwhelm customers and their understanding of what is applicable to their environment all the time.
What's an example of a customer doing it right and securing their IoT solution and devices properly?
A lot of customers in the commercial and public sector arenas that are using IoT devices
are very successful with their security.
Absolutely, and because they are so regulated. So regulations and standards bodies are kind of that check and balance in place that help customers reset their compass, if you will, and it helps them to realign exactly what they need to be doing and where they are because that regulation keeps them in check. You have to adhere to these 10 things, and that is their driving force in understanding where they need to lie. So customers in regulated markets tend to be very specific about what they need. They have very deliberate reasons for having the security controls they have in place, and it's verifiable, it's demonstratable, if that's a word, I'm not sure.
And then when they know what they need, we're able to come in and help them with the security practices to put in place.
And that's also another reason why we try to align with as many compliance frameworks as possible, because we know customers in regulated markets need that. And if you're able to be eligible for certain compliance programs like HIPAA or FedRAMP or PCI or ISO, it makes it that much easier for customers to not only adopt that technology, but also scale it up for their business needs, how they need it, because they have that sort of assurance there.
What are some examples of those regulated environments? I think you mentioned government. Is healthcare another big one?
Healthcare is a huge one. There's tons of companies that are working on medical devices, and they need to be able to make sure they adhere to whatever healthcare regulation they might be subject to. And another one in public sector are customers that use, for example, Wi-Fi routers in lights, right, across the city. They are in the need to provide assurance that, they're collecting data, but they're also securing it and keeping it private in line with whatever regulation they're
You wouldn't want
subject
someone
to.
hacking all the lights in a city.
No, you would not.
That would be bad.
That'd be a bit of a Gotham situation that I know I wouldn't want to live through.
Yeah, makes sense.
So your team works specifically with IoT security. Are there any other solutions that your team helps secure?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a lot of educational campaigns and communication and one-on-one sessions when it comes to artificial intelligence. We help to break down the barriers or kind of reduce the gap between machine learning and security. And these are all things I'm learning myself. My background is not traditionally in tech, so I'm learning as I go. And it's been great fun because it helps me to understand the other side of the spectrum. I come from healthcare compliance and I come from working in the government sector where things are not super fast-paced.
They're really rigid and slow.
Exactly. And compliance just happens to be that kind of an environment.
Right.
And so it helps to see the other side and hopefully how we can help customers in the public sector in regulated markets like healthcare and financial
Move just
services.
a little bit faster.
Precisely, yeah. It's been great fun, and it helps me to learn, and I found the best way to teach customers about what I know is to learn it first myself, which would be kind of important, as you can imagine. And so, so that's how I ended up here.
So where can our customers and viewers who are watching this now go to find out more if they want to get started with their security for their IT?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a great services and scope page. You can also, if you'd like, you can reach out to me directly. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Momina Chima, and I work at AWS. And our goal is to help you understand our security capabilities and privacy capabilities. And so if you have questions around that, or if we can help you to understand those capabilities a little bit more in your journey to adoption, I'd be happy to do that.
And are you doing any breakout sessions that are viewable online?
I'm doing a Chalk Talk, which is not viewable online, but our VP is doing a session tomorrow, and that is Wednesday the 26th at 4 p.m., and that's going to talk about the future of governance and different things that AWS is doing that are considered industry differentiators, like automated reasoning, and how that can help to automate security controls, help to automate the governance, risk, and compliance space a little bit. And it'll have a shout out to IoT.
And it'll be recorded for online viewing?
It will, yes. It'll be on YouTube.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for discussing IoT security with us and a little bit about what your team does. Good luck with the Chalk Talk.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of Reinforce.
I appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you a bit later.
Thanks.